When we think of cities, we usually think of them as energy hogs, right? Just massive consumers. But what if I told you they're also these giant, untapped power plants hiding in plain sight? We're going to dive into that because honestly, the future of our planet could depend on unlocking the power that's literally right under our noses.
Okay, so first things first, let's get a sense of the scale here. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they've crunched the numbers. And get this, our cities are responsible for a whopping 71 to 76% of all global energy-related CO2 emissions. I mean, that's huge. It puts cities right on the front line in the fight against climate change.
And here's the thing. This challenge, it's not shrinking. It's getting bigger, way bigger. Since 1961, the urban population has quadrupled, and by 2050, we're looking at almost 7 billion people living in cities. And nearly all of that new growth, we're talking 90% of it, is going to be in Asia and Africa. So the choices we make right now about how we power our cities, well, they're going to be felt for a long, long time. So you'd think, logically, that the places with the most sun, the most growth, they'd be the ones leading the charge for renewables, right? Makes sense. But, well, this is where it gets really interesting. There's this massive, unexpected gap between where the power is and where the plans are. So let's ask the question, which cities are actually stepping up? Who's leading the charge? The answer is pretty surprising, and it shows a huge disconnect in how we're tackling this whole thing. Okay, so here's the breakdown. It's incredibly concentrated. It turns out that more than 80%, yeah, 80% of all cities with a renewable energy target are in just two places, Europe and North America. That's a massive imbalance, especially when you start to think about where the real resources are. And this is where that imbalance just gets wild. Because if you look at where the best renewable resources are, specifically solar power, the sunniest spots on the planet, they're overwhelmingly in the Middle East, Africa, Latin America, and Asia. The exact same places that are growing the fastest. And that's the kicker, right there. The cities making all the ambitious plans, for the most part, they aren't the ones sitting on a gold mine of sunshine. We've got this huge gap between ambition and opportunity. And the data, wow, the data really drives this home. Get this. If you take the cities with the absolute best solar potential in the world, we're talking the top 10%, a staggering 95% of them have no renewable energy target at all. Just let that sink in for a second. 95%. Our best resource is just sitting there, completely untapped from a planning standpoint. So what you end up with is this tale of two very different paths. On one hand, you've got Africa and Asia. They're facing this explosive urban growth. They have incredible renewable potential, but they're lagging way behind on setting targets. Then, on the other hand, you have Europe and North America. Their cities are more mature, their energy demand is stable, and they have over 80% of all the targets. The really scary part? It means the parts of the world that are about to need the most energy are the least prepared to get it from renewables. All right, so that's the problem. It's a big one. But let's shift gears and talk solutions. Because the good news is cities actually have this amazing toolkit at their disposal right now. We're talking about ways to get power from everything from rooftops to, well, even our trash. So let's take a look. First up, the one we all know, rooftop solar. It's the most common choice, and for good reason, right? It literally turns our own homes and buildings into mini power plants. In that typical system you see on a house, it's often powerful enough to make a huge dent in or even completely cover a family's electricity bill. Then there's solar thermal. This is a bit different. It uses the sun's heat directly for things like hot water. And this is a great example of where smart policy can make a huge difference. Some cities have actually made solar water heaters mandatory for all new buildings. It's a simple rule that can totally fast-track the technology. Okay, now this one is super cool because it solves two problems at once. Waste to energy. The name says it all. It takes our garbage, our municipal solid waste, and turns it into reliable power. Think about that. You get energy and you reduce the amount of trash going into landfills by like 85 to 90%. That's a massive win-win. What about wind? Well, urban wind is still kind of a new kid on the block, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on. You're not seeing giant wind farms in the middle of downtown, but there are some really clever new turbine designs being made just for cities to work with the weird wind patterns you get between buildings.
And don't forget to look down. Right under our feet, there's geothermal energy. It's just tapping into the Earth's own heat for heating and cooling buildings. And it's not some niche idea. The amount of this being used globally has more than doubled just since 2010. So it's a fast-growing piece of the puzzle.
Now, tech like waste to energy is part of a much bigger concept, and it's called the circular economy. You've probably heard the term. It's all about moving away from our old model of take something, make something, then throw it away. The whole point is to create a system where there is no waste, because everything is just reused, recycled, or repurposed. And this isn't just a theory. The International Renewable Energy Agency, or IRENA, points this out directly. They say that waste to energy is a really promising way for cities to actually build that circular economy. It's a perfect fit for making our cities truly sustainable. Okay, so we've seen the problem, we've looked at the tools in the toolbox. Now for the big question. How do you actually put it all together? How do we build a real blueprint for a renewable city? And this is maybe the most important part. It's not just about the tech. You can't just drop in a bunch of solar panels and call it a day. To really do this right, it takes smart planning. It means upgrading our power grids, making them smart, and just fundamentally rethinking how we manage and use energy across the entire city. Really, a good plan boils down to 4 pretty straightforward steps. First, you've got to figure out what you have to work with. How much sun do you get? How much waste do you produce? Then, based on that, you figure out which technologies make the most sense for your city. Step 3 is setting real, achievable goals. And finally, you put it all together in one big, integrated plan so that everything works in harmony. And you know, the best part is that this isn't just about CO2 levels. When cities go renewable, all these other amazing things happen. We're talking about better public health, cleaner air for our kids to breathe, new local jobs, and being more resilient when things go wrong. It's not just a win-win, it's like a win-win-win-win. So, when you look around, our cities are basically monuments to the fossil fuel age. That's what built them, that's what powered them. The big question we have to ask ourselves now is, can these same incredible hubs of human ingenuity turn the page and build a renewable one? All the potential is there. It's just waiting for us to unlock it.